Ruling will energize their supporters heading into November.
We need to mandate some monsoons.
Oh, man, we do, and it looks like it's going to take into next week for that to happen. So we are going to bring out a ton of fire coverage here. Here's a look at what's going on. This is the LIGHTNER fire, you guys, outside Durango. About 3 miles outside of town. Jimmy McKinnon got this shot. It's about 60 acres. Getting on this fire pretty quickly, but there's still plenty of issues out there, and I think we're still looking at the next couple of days as a real critical time period for new fires to start. So here's a look at the fire forecast for the Lightner Creek fire. Dry fuels and spot storms are going to be the biggest concern for tomorrow. I'll explain why spot storms can be a very big deal in just a moment. Temperatures in the high 80s. West winds 10 to 20 miles an hour, and relative humidity pretty low. So not great firefighting weather, but we're not talking about major league winds, at least in a consistent basis. Now, the reason we may have some issues coming up here over the next couple of days is, and today was a good example, we had enough moisture coming in from the southwest to touch off a few storms across our northern mountains, even up into the Durango area as well. These storms, though, don't pack quite enough moisture to push rain all the way to the ground. So what we usually get are some dry thunderstorms that push a lot of wind out of the storm. We get the lightning strike, but we don't end up with a lot of rain that douses that lightning strike, so those winds can end up pushing the fire and expanding it a bit, and this creates problems. So don't be surprised if over the next couple of days we have to contend with some more starts, especially across northern New Mexico and over the high mountain communities as well. Now, as far as last night goes and what happened in Colorado Springs, we see this sort of thing quite a bit with some of our big fires here in New Mexico as well. We had the fire along the east slope of the mountains, and then some of the thunderstorms started to form right over the tops of the mountains. Well, the storms don't have to be right on top of the fire to do this. In fact, the storms can be 20, 30 miles away. You get those dry thunderstorms and you push the winds right through the canyons over the fire zone, and that fire zone expands very quickly and in a huge way. It did this into Colorado Springs. We saw this with the Cerro Grande fire. We even saw it to some degree in the Las Conchas fire as well last year. So this is something that happens quite often, and when we talk about scattered thunderstorms being a big deal in the fire zone, this is what we're talking about. It's the winds that feed the storm. It's not necessarily an additional lightning strike when you already have an existing fire. So a really big deal there. Hopefully we won't have to contend with that in New Mexico over the next couple of weeks, but it's a possibility we could well have some more fires before this whole thing is done. 86 degrees in the metro. Winds out of the north right now at 16 miles an hour. Northern half of the state still warm this evening, but not off the charts hot. 70s and 80s for the most part. Down to the south, 70s and 80s, even some 90s holding on. There is a thin band of moisture coming up from the south. This is hardly a good-looking monsoon flow. It's just enough to create some showers and, of course, some dry lightning as well. That's not really going to change for tomorrow. Unfortunately, what we're going to see is that moisture sort of push into central sections of the state. That's what could bring the northern mountains into the mix here for some dry lightning as well as some wet garden variety thunderstorms as well. For you guys in the southeast, a lot of real warm conditions continue. Temperatures well over 100 degrees into the weekend. We push high pressure back overhead. Things quiet down once again. And if we're going to have hope to bring some more moisture into the mix here, it's probably going to be around the 4th of July when we could push a storm in and we could end up bringing more showers across the area. That is anything but a sure thing, though. Across southern Colorado, temperatures for the most part 80s and 90s for tomorrow. Not great firefighting weather, but not a lot of consistent wind either, so that is some good news. Across the northwest, 96 in Farmington, 93 in Grants, and 92 in Gallup. Partly sunny, an isolated storm possible. Southwest, sun and clouds here, isolated showers through about Saturday, probably a break Sunday into Monday, and then you can see Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, more moisture back in the mix. That does look at least promising by around the 4th. Hot again across southeastern New Mexico. Temperatures for the most part right around 100 or better. Northeast, hot here again with a spot storm a possibility. Santa Rosa at 192 in Las Vegas. Out in Mora, 87 degrees. Northern mountains, watch out for the dry lightning strikes, and you can bet a lot of the fire crews in places like Red River, Angel Fire, and Taos are watching the mountains very closely over the next couple of days. Down into the East Mountains, temperatures here in the low 90s. Sun and clouds, an isolated storm possible. And finally, right here in the city, we will be warm. 98 in Heights, 96 in the foothills, and 98 out in Rio Rancho as well. Your extended forecast is nothing if not consistent. High 90s, largely sunny skies. It does look better, though, by around Wednesday of next week with more moisture and lower temps.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, we need it.
Mark, thank you. A trio of puppies dumped in a cardboard box with no food or water in the New Mexico heat.